Hello and welcome everyone to a session that's really, really close to my heart. We've been able to get incredible speakers for today's event, which all will do a much better job in introducing themselves than I will, and I'll invite them to it. But I think just to kind of mention to those that are joining us today, we are looking at the role of creativity and diversity and inclusivity in a business, and what we can do to nurture that, and what we can do to strengthen that, and what the reasons might be that we would want to do that. So can I invite Imogen, please, to introduce herself and the business that she's working for?
Hi, thank you. So I'm Imogen Taziman. I'm ECD, or Exec Creative Director at McCann Manchester, which is an advertising agency. Also a mother. I probably could have art directed this space slightly better. Might push the pushchair out in a second.
Thank you very much. Chelsea.
Thank you. I'm Chelsea. I'm the co-founder of a social enterprise called Innovate Here. We're on a mission to get girls ready for the tech industry and the tech industry ready for girls. So we teach young people, girls and non-binary students, tech skills online, as well as working really closely with businesses on diversity and inclusion.
Perfect. Thank you. Rochelle?
Afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Rochelle Schuster, Head of Programme Innovation at Leeds City Council. Diversity, inclusion, creativity are really the cornerstones to what we want to achieve through innovation through the city and across all our sectors, and very much so about the creative industries.
Marilyn?
Hello, everybody. My name is Marilyn Comrie, and I'm a director of a social enterprise called the Blair Project, which is similar to Innovate Her, but what we're doing is creating the pipeline of talent to work with to drive the green industrial revolution by teaching disadvantaged young people and young people of colour how to convert used petrol go-karts into electric go-karts, which they get to test and race and learn about battery technologies and powertrain systems.
It's a really fascinating business. I'm hoping you'll share a little bit more about it. But yeah, so I think as all of the viewers can see, as promised, it's a really diverse and really incredible panel that we've been able to bring to the table today, virtual table. I think I guess just a little bit of background what's brought this conversation on. So kind of looking at the last 12 months, and I have the really big privilege of getting a lot of insight into businesses and their inner workings and their culture and their recruitment history. And we've really seen what on the ground, what a lot of research keeps telling us anyways, but we've seen it in the flesh. And that was that those businesses that have been championing diversity and inclusivity in their workforce has actually done a lot better in the whole pursuit of sustaining themselves and kind of propelling themselves further throughout this pandemic. So I think that was just one of the many reasons why we've kind of been saying it's not just important culturally, and it's not just the kind of, I guess, the work business world that we want to create, but actually bottom line, it is helping businesses to sustain themselves. So I think in that light, that's what brought this conversation on. I would be very interested to hear from you, from each one of you. What does diversity and inclusivity mean in your business? Maybe if we go to Rochelle first to kind of share that with us.
Thanks, Sarah. So a little bit of context, I suppose, in terms of my background. I originally started my career as a textile designer. I've sort of traveled through different worlds, policy, research, business, and now local government. And I think, diversity and being, different in amongst lots of other communities has been part of my career. And also part of my driver in terms of sort of understanding how programs need to be sort of better put together to support the people we're trying to reach. So in terms of my role at Leeds City Council, we're a very diverse city, very diverse region. And we really see that diversity is really a competitive advantage and a real opportunity for us to kind of bring not just diversity in its whole sense, but, our sort of strengths across different sectors together in a way that allows us to compete. I think, for the business head, I think the important thing now is sort of, coming through the pandemic and certainly not over yet, is thinking about how exactly that sort of competency of diversity and creativity has allowed us to sort of succeed and be more flexible and more creative and innovative in our thinking, and helped us actually build a more resilient, not just workforce, but economy. One project I've been involved in, which I'll come to later, is Build, which is a 12-week accelerator for early stage businesses. Some creative, some all sectors were represented actually, which was really interesting to really think about that sort of intersection piece and how we sort of work together as different individuals in different fields. But there's been some great results from that, just in terms of how we've been helping those businesses develop their businesses to be scalable, be collaborative, and actually think about how diversity fits into their business models right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I know we talk to Leeds a lot, and it's certainly championing the whole area of diversity and inclusivity. Chelsea, do you want to share? Because I know, again, you're one that's kind of championing that area. How you're helping?
Yeah, sure. So I think diversity and inclusion is quite personal to me. After I finished university, I went and worked in technology, and I lived in Liverpool at the time, which is a very culturally diverse city. But when I worked in tech in a few organisations in Liverpool, I didn't see that. And I was, in terms of gender, I was the only female working in this space. Mm-hmm. So immediately I saw and felt different to my colleagues. It was very white and very male. And when I tried to put my opinion across, when there was a group of very similar people within the organisation brainstorming, coming up with ideas, I felt like my voice wasn't being heard. So from a very young age, actually, I felt like I really wanted to make change. I love technology and I love how innovative and creative it can be. But I also know and recognise that if we didn't have diverse people actually coming up with these ideas, then the technology wasn't going to be good for diverse people. So I started a small community here in Liverpool called Liverpool Girl Geeks in 2013, and the aim of that was to inspire more women to get involved in technology, and that's what they did. It quickly grew. Liverpool's a very loyal city, and it grew very, very quickly, and women were coming to me and saying, right, you're inspiring me, tech sounds great, how do I come and learn this stuff now? So we put on courses, and then in around 2015 I decided I needed to do this full time, started doing some freelance work, and then started to look at it as a social enterprise, and that kind of like snowballed into where Innovate Her is today. I think another thing that I was witnessing was I was working with quite young people in schools on this agenda as well. And young girls were telling me that their teachers were telling them not to choose a tech GCSE subject because they were going to be the only girl in the classroom. And then there's a few girls' schools in Liverpool as well, all girls' schools, that weren't offering computer science, but they were in the boys' schools. So I saw all of this happening. So Innovate Her kind of sprouted from there, because we want to make sure that they're being treated fairly, that the workplaces that they go into, they'll be treated fairly. And yet for us now, it's all about that next generation and making sure the opportunities are there for them that, we didn't have as when we were growing up. I think you're on mute there, Sarah. I don't
even know how that happened. Anyway, thank you. I was just saying very, very concerning insights into feedback from the teachers. So, but yeah, very interesting. Thank you very much, Imogen.
Yeah, I think working in advertising, we're in quite a unique position actually, a unique and privileged position where we not only get to reflect culture as it is, but we also get to shape it as well. So for us, diversity and inclusion is incredibly important to us as an organisation and us as an industry. It's a daily topic of conversation for us. And there's two sides to that coin as well. There's diversity and inclusion within our industry, within the teams, within every position from the junior ones up to senior management. But then also what we're putting out there, what we're putting out into the world, who we're representing, who we're putting in front of the camera, what stories are we telling. And I think for me, it's incredibly exciting that when you can pull in diversity of minds and opinions. We can draw on different lived experiences. This is how you find new ways to reach new people, and really just makes the work get better. We can better represent and reflect the society we live in. We live in hearing you, Chelsea and Michelle talk, we do live in an inherently diverse world, and if we can't make work that reflects and represents that, then I think we're going to get left behind quite quickly.
Couldn't agree more. I'm really curious to hear from Marilyn as well, her thoughts on that.
Well, basically, the reason why we started the Blair Project was because of diversity and inclusion, specifically diversity and inclusion in motorsport. We started 7 years ago, before it became, I don't want to say a fashion, but it is now. So everybody's jumping on the diversity in motorsport bandwagon. But when we started out, and my son started the Blair Project when he was 18, to help his younger brother Blair and other young people who wanted to get to the highest echelons in motorsport, which was Formula One. But unless your family have £2 million to help you on that journey, it doesn't matter how talented you are. That's why Lewis Hamilton is in a space of his own there. And he admitted recently that if he was starting out now, it would be impossible for him to get where. So we're missing out on world-beating talent as a result of this. But it was why my son started it at 18. And one of the challenges that we had, especially being Black, is that when we initially started out, people didn't take us seriously. Blair was a karter, we're involved in motorsport, and it was Black people in motorsport. And I remember being told by a female director of a motorsport business that we shouldn't give the young people that we represent, which are poor white working class, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, as well as girls, we shouldn't give them false hopes that they can reach the highest echelons. Instead, we should help them to accept their status in life. But rather than put us off, it gave us an additional rocket fuel to prove her wrong. And I'm delighted to say that we've proved her wrong. I can't announce something, but we've got an important announcement next week. But it has been that journey. Part of the journey has been, because our focus is disadvantaged youth. And we're involved in motorsport, and we've had so many companies say to us, we will sponsor you, but can you work with young people from leafier neighbourhoods, as opposed to, because they were using their CSR as a way of developing new business growth. So disadvantaged young people, their parents don't have any money that they can spend. So for us as a business, we've had to tread the line between, we found that companies pay lip service to race equality. We could get far more funding if we were representing gender and gender only. So again, pressure was being applied to just focus, even within Motorsport UK, we're members, they do gender diversity. At the moment, they say it's going to take them 7 years to be able to tackle racial equality. And it's understanding why that is, because actually the root cause of gender discrimination, disability discrimination, racial, it's the same cause. You tackle that cause, you tackle all of this discrimination. So for us, diversity and inclusion for us as a company is about providing the right environment for diverse talent to come in and find their level. What is their strength? And then we guide them into it. So we took on a young graduate as a curriculum development person. 6 months later, we've just promoted her up into junior operations manager, because she is the best manager I have ever encountered. And I think that's what diversity and inclusion is starting from the place where you recognise every single person was born with a talent. And your job, and the jobs of schools should be to help them discover what this talent is, and then provide the right environment. Like they are seeds. Let's provide the right soil for them to grow into mighty oaks and benefit our business. And that's what it means to us. But going outside the business, it's about diversity, promoting diversity and inclusion within the innovation ecosystem that we work with. And we've begun that job with people like Bruntwood SciTech. I have to give them a big shout out, because they agreed to partner with us to bring an idea that we had called the Manchester Innovation Activities Hub to life, which is going to create opportunities for low-income residents living in the shadows of Manchester Science Park, to get rapidly upskilled, reskilled and retrained so that they can take these better paid jobs for which there are skill shortages. And as a result of that partnership, we secured £4 million for the creation of the Manchester Innovation. So for me, I would like to see diversity and inclusion extend to more large companies like Bruntwood SciTech. I think they're great exemplars. I can't, you know, mention them enough. But other companies will follow suit and say, how can we promote diversity, inclusion, social mobility by partnering with a diverse business and helping them to grow?
No, again, you know, everything each one of you has said, I think it's just testament to how important it is that we have these conversations, because this notion of it being a fashion or it being kind of en vogue at the moment to kind of talk about inclusivity and diversity, I think the only way to not degrade it to a fashion, even though, you know, the elements of the fashion is great because it is in everyone's mouth and everyone's ear, but at the same time it kind of, I feel like it just slightly diminishes its importance, is because we have to share those really quite shocking experiences. Unfortunately, I keep having to have a similar kind of conversation around that creative sector, in particular the traditional creative sector, where, and you know, there's been some really bad press kind of last year where, you know, people have been encouraged to maybe not pursue a career in performing arts, even though that's where their clear talent lies, or, you know, things like this, and kind of like push them towards something that's quote unquote a more viable sector. So I think there's unfortunately, you know, probably the time that we have here today, we won't be able to tap into all of that. But I think, you know, what I would really like to talk about kind of like going forward is your own personal views on what we need to do to instill that whole central idea of diversity and inclusivity. And if we could maybe look at it from a wider angle, so gender, background, but also age, because I think, again, within the creative sector, we have the opportunity to upskill everyone that wants to break into this sector, no matter whether their career changes or whether they're at the beginning of their career. So your own views on what we can do right now, what businesses that are listening in today right now can do to kind of like bring diversity and inclusivity into their business. Imogen, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think, well, again, certainly in advertising, I think we're very guilty in the past of, if we take recruitment, for example, very guilty in the past of going straight to, in the creative department, university shows. We're looking at university graduates, probably on the accounts team and planners, etc. as well. You're probably expected to have a degree. You are instantly cutting out a whole group in society that didn't have the privilege of going to university. So I think we've been very guilty of that in the past, and that's something that's very much top of our mind at the moment, is where are we finding people? Where are we looking for people? Can we do better? Can we get to them younger? Can we inspire school children? It's heartbreaking to hear that people are being put off careers because of what they might look like or what the backgrounds might be. It's hard to believe it's still happening, isn't it? But unless we actually do something to stop it happening, it will continue. And then we have another thing in advertising. We have kind of finder's fees or bonuses that are handed out for you introducing people for job roles, if you introducing people to the agency. One of the simplest things you can do is get rid of that, because we're instantly just constantly fishing in our own pool. The industry is going to look exactly the same in 10 years' time if we keep just giving jobs to our friends. And we're actually incentivizing that at the moment. So that's one of the simplest things we can do to kind of stop that happening. So I think, yeah, for me, it's a lot about recruitment, and then it can't stop there. It has to be what you do. There's that amazing quote, isn't there? I think it's diversity is having a seat at the table, inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having that voice heard. So it cannot stop at recruitment. It has to be what you do after that, and how you make people feel genuinely welcome and genuinely heard in your agency.
Thank you. Thank you for some really good tips for people to kind of take away. Rochelle, I know councils have been, you know, at the forefront of kind of championing all of this pursuit and kind of in building better, better societies, I guess, if they're broad stroke. But from your perspective, what would you say? How would you encourage businesses in your region or elsewhere to do right now to kind of encourage diversity?
I think we're at a moment where we've got the chance and opportunity to rewrite some of our own rules, and that includes local government, national government, and everybody else around the ecosystem. So to Marilyn's point, I think, we've all got to get involved and we've all got to play our role and move beyond the kind of the rhetoric to the doing something. And if you don't know what to do, learn quick. Mm-hmm. So part of the project that I talked about, Build the Accelerator, is really shining a spotlight on the lack of diversity in those kind of early stage and startup companies. So really think, why is that happening? And really tracking back the data and sort of looking at some of the stories in our own region to understand exactly, what is going on. We're still learning, but I think the important point for us was actually one big reason why we weren't seeing the sort of diversity that we would, expect to see in this kind of, communities, because they don't get through the hoops, they don't get through the criteria, the same things that Imogen talked about. Have you got a track record? The same things Marilyn talked about. Have you got backing? Have you got have you got someone that's already got family and friends to put the first round of funding in? Are you already, able to sort of, reduce the risk from an investor's perspective? And that already excludes, a big part of our talent in this startup scale-up ecosystem. So we just stripped it right back, and we kind of took out all the criteria that you normally expect in, the usual sort of accelerator programs. Age, background, qualifications, wherever you were from, across the region. So not even Leeds, we kind of just opened it up. And we got an incredible opportunity to learn one thing about participation, how you really sort of think about, how you engage different audiences, and we're still, getting better and better with that. Two, about how you sort of really have an impact on different types of people and different types of customers, so building that into our curriculum. And three, how you really think about the design of your programs and making sure that these the broadest sort of community and different types of people get the chance to compete, get the chance to be at the table, get the chance to get investment without the usual sort of criteria in place. We had a fantastic range of companies and technologies in all different sectors. There's a company called Kiana, which I'd encourage you to sort of track and find out what they're doing. This lady's from the beauty industry. She's 25. She's looking again at why, again, are there unmet needs in the beauty industry in terms of really getting makeup right that was right for different skin tones. It's something she'd seen at the counter, and she'd seen and experienced the lack of understanding of how to do this. So she's building an AI platform to really look into, how we solve this problem and why it matters. So I think there's a huge amount of scope. We've got huge problems out there, huge inequality opportunities that could also be business ideas. So going back to Imogen's point, we've got the chance to shape this. We've got the talent to shape this. Let's make sure we really sort of understand the barriers and systematically challenge people and take them out, because that's the only way, we're sort of going to move forward.
Absolutely. And, definitely part of what I see my organization and kind of like my team to be helping with as much as with others, because I think I would love to encourage everyone that is working in that space and that is doing the good work and is kind of fighting the fight to be louder. There's actually so much kind of activity already going on, but somehow people are just not proud enough of it in the sense of like outward shouting. So I think just a little bit of encouragement from my side, but over to you, Marilyn, to kind of share your view on that.
Following on from what you've just said, Sarah, if you're, it's about, I spent years shouting louder, and what you then get labelled with is a trope of the angry black woman. So I've had to learn to tone that down and then get other allies to fight some of those battles. But just to agree with Johnny Moss, that I think that diversity is key for innovation. That innovation is a way that we're going to achieve diversity and inclusion. That's something that I'm really passionate about at the Manchester Innovation Activities Hub. We're going to take university research, put it in the hands of diverse people, and get them to turn it into commercial products and services so that they can grow new green businesses. So I think that's absolutely key. But in terms of tackling it going forward, I think a practical thing that everybody on this call can do today is to look around your workplace, notice who's missing. So Greater Manchester as a region is 25% Black, Asian, minority, ethnic. If your workplace does not represent that, then know that you have a problem, and start by saying, well, why is it that my workplace is not reflecting the society within which it is? And it will be different for different businesses, but the starting point is to ask the question. Ask your question why, involve everybody in the business to understand. It could be the way that jobs are marketed. You might need to change the wording that you use. I mean, you know, research has shown that women are sometimes put off from applying for jobs in advanced manufacturing because of the wording is very male. So have a look at the wording. But once people are there, it's that thing about inclusion. What is the culture like within that business? Do people feel that they can bring their whole selves to the workplace and be who they are? Or do they feel that actually work is a place where they fear being themselves and have to conform? So for me, that would be the starting point, is to notice, ask why, and then take action. Because at the moment, there's a lot of lip service. But as Lewis Hamilton said yesterday, and he was talking about Formula One, I don't see any change. So we need to move. It's like Emmeline Pankhurst said, we need deeds, not words. So actually, we've got to move towards what action can I take to shift this?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. And I see a lot of nodding from Chelsea. So, you know, kind of over to you to kind of give your insight.
I made a load of notes on this question because I've got so much to say, but Marilyn has kind of summed everything that I wanted to say up, which was brilliant. I think language is very, very important, as Marilyn said. Women tend to get put off by job descriptions and don't feel confident enough if they don't fit all of the criteria. So I think looking at that is super important. Looking at flexible working, Imogen spoke a lot about recruitment, so I won't go into that. But I think before everything, I think companies really need to prioritise this and assign budget to it. We see so many organisations talking about this, and then when we ask them for money, we work with 26 organisations who are giving us money to help them with diversity and inclusion. And a lot of businesses, as soon as we ask for that money, say no. So I'm not asking that for my business or Marilyn's business. I think assigning budget means that senior leaders will have buy-in. So that's like the most important thing. But also, I think what we see is a lot of juniors or a lot of people that are passionate about this, they might get affected, they might be underrepresented. Take this on the side of their role. So if you assign budget and you can get a D&I lead to actually do this work, it's a full-time job. I think that's really important. Or bring someone in like Innovate Her or Marilyn's organisation to come and help you with this. But that does require budget. And I think that's the very first thing that an organisation should do. And, you know, it doesn't have to be costly, and it can, you know, you can start small, like the capturing the data stuff, changing some of your language. We can help you with that. We help businesses from 10 employees to 2,000 employees. You know, it is affordable, but yeah, you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to put your hand in your pocket.
It's such a good point, but there's also such a huge business case for it now as well. So certainly, I mean, not that should be, you know, the decider, but that's the, you know, the cold hard facts is there is a business case for it. We increasingly get new biz clients coming to us asking what our DE&I policies are, and they don't mean what are you, can you just chuck us a slide on your values? They don't mean that. They mean they want it in the creds, they want facts, figures, they want the data, they want to know what your commitments are and what you're doing about it.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more, and I'm so glad that it's kind of like echoed throughout this conversation. I think you know, it's almost like that commitment of resource, whether that's money and kind of like men power, women power hours, but also it's almost like an insurance, because again, looking back at the last 12 months, a lot of businesses had to accelerate their growth internationally. Those that have that diverse workforce in terms of employee backgrounds, or again, whichever element of diversity it might be, they have been so much more successful in their pursuit of kind of entering global markets. So there's this very strong business case. I think I'm very mindful of time. We will have to kind of wrap this up. Obviously, as ever, this was not enough time to talk about all of this. I'll probably ask everyone just to give one final kind of wish going forward, or one takeaway from this conversation to the audience, and then we will have to say goodbye, unfortunately. Shall we go in the original order?
I think my takeaway would be one of hope and excitement, actually, that I've said this before, but diversity is not a problem to be solved. It is the solution to the problem, I think.
Thank you. Chelsea?
Putting me on the spot here. I think from what we've all said today, I think it's just so easy to make a start on this. Don't be scared. Reach out to us. We can help you. And, you know, you can make a huge difference quite quickly. So, yeah, just go for it. As you say, it's better for business. It's better for innovation. It's better for talent recruitment and all of that. So please do get in touch with any of us. I'm sure we'll be able to help you.
Perfect. Thank you. Rochelle?
I suppose just in terms of the business case, I think it's really time to sort of reframe that, you know, move away from quotas and compliance and, you know, we should do this to actually, you know, really should do this. This is an advantage. It's about how creativity and diversity brings empathy and equity, and actually that makes us more resilient businesses.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. We have, I think we've, technical issues somewhere in the background, but yeah, thank you to all of you for joining today. I guess a really big thank you. It's such an important conversation to have and to continue going forward. My final kind of thoughts are, and I guess encouragement to the audience, this walk doesn't have to be walked alone. There is so much like generosity in terms of sharing what what works, what doesn't work, what mistakes shouldn't be repeated. So please be in touch with all of us, and please put that at the forefront of your business strategy, because it will help, and it will help kind of building an economy that is just better, stronger, and just nicer to work in. So thank you very much.